You have found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls. On today's episode, what if the Bulls can't find a trade for Zach LaVine? What ripple effects could they have for the Chicago Bulls offseason and flexibility out in the open market? We're also going to talk about the Bulls being listed as a favorite for Russell Westbrook this offseason. I don't know how much I believe that, but we'll talk about it. And, of course, rest in peace to Jerry West. We're going to get into all that and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze, and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Haize. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central, Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. Pat, let's go ahead and jump into it for today, man. We've talked a lot about the possibilities and different destinations and everything when it comes to Zach LaVine potentially being moved, but Bleacher Report had an article in which they called it's the Bulls' worst case scenario if they cannot move Zach LaVine this offseason. I don't know if I believe that. We'll talk about the ripple effects, but first, do you think it's necessarily the worst case scenario if the Bulls can't move on from Zach LaVine this offseason?
Yeah, for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
Number one, you've got two sides that hate each other at this point. I shouldn't say hate. You got two sides.
Cordial. They said that they were still very amicable.
You've got two sides that are living in the same house but walking past each other, not saying much.
This is very true.
You know what I mean? Like that's not a relationship that is going to brood success, no matter what it is. There's never going to come a point where Zach LaVine is going to be like, well, you know what? I'm happy here. There's never going to come a point where the Bulls are going to be like, well, you know what? We're happy with you here. So you've got two sides that are in a, I guess contentious isn't the right word. I don't know, like neither side cares, right? They're existing together because right now, based on the paperwork that has been signed, they have to be together. So you're dealing with a team that is going through that. And on top of that, to me, you're if you hold on to Zach LaVine, right, the conversation that we had before this, you're essentially having to let DeMar DeRozan walk. You're having to let Patrick Williams, maybe him as well, walk, right? And what team is that getting you? Last season, your team had an offensive rating of 114 that put you 19th in the NBA, a defensive rating of 115.7 that put you 22nd in the NBA. You averaged 11.5 3-pointers per game. It put you 26th in the NBA. Like you're putting, again, I understand we're trying to change the core, but to me, you're just throwing the same team back out there with maybe a couple of different pieces, and you're going, listen, try and figure that out because we're stuck with this guy. That's the worst situation to be in, where you can't go up or down. The only way I see the Bulls improving, again, if you keep Zach LaVine, if you don't keep Zach LaVine, the only way I see a major step in the right direction for this team is if we see the next step from Kobe White, that 25 point per game guy being consistent. You know what I mean? Like that's you're in a very run this back yet again situation if you can't find a trade partner for Zach LaVine.
Yeah, I mean, maybe in a lot of ways even worse because you can't run it back, and then you're looking at having to let DeMar DeRozan walk, which letting DeMar DeRozan walk isn't like end all be all end of the world case scenario, but like you said, it's bad because you're left with something that you just have to try to make it work, and that's difficult for everyone. I mean, Zach LaVine did have an optional surgery, which shout out to him. We heard today that he is 100%, but because he just didn't want to be here and he didn't want to get traded to the damn Pistons. So it's like, what are we doing? Like,
which even more so, right? Like that. If I've gone through the trouble of working out, and I'm not putting this on Zach, but if I've gone through the entire process of we're working out a trade, we've got something that we think is actually going to work and be different, and okay, we got it figured out, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, you pull a Gronk, you know what I mean? Oh, you can't trade me. I just had surgery. You guys, what? Oh yeah, it's getting worked on right now. I'm in here with the doctor on the phone with y'all. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna like you. And just so people don't think this is Pat's just out on Zach LaVine kind of rant. Go look up the numbers with Zach LaVine on the team. Offensive rating for the Chicago Bulls, 114.5. This is in 2022. not in 2023. For people who say, oh, it's going to be different. Defensive rating, 115.3. Those are the exact same numbers that you're throwing out there. And so there's just, listen, I would love for this iteration of the team to magically come together and start figuring things out, but we're past that point. And there's not a player that's going to step back into this lineup that changes that for me. And so if there is no Zach LaVine trade at this point, yeah, you are in a worst case scenario. And on top of everything else that I put out there, we don't even know if Zach LaVine is going to be healthy for, y'all know I don't ask for 82 games, 65 games.
65 games. That's the
We
mark.
don't even know
65.
if Zach LaVine's going to be healthy for the minimum requirement of games to be an award winner or be put on one of the all-NBA teams when he's out there. And that's the biggest problem, because he's a good enough player. It's not hate towards Zach. He's a good enough player that if he's on your team, you have to somewhat build around him. Like, you don't have to put everything around him, but he has to be a big part of the equation. You can't look at Zach LaVine and go, yeah, you're the fourth option on this team. Not the Chicago Bulls. Maybe if he goes to Dallas or he goes to Boston or whatever, then you can do that. But on this Bulls team, you can't do that. He's got to be your second and or first option.
Yeah. I mean, it's a doozy there, Pat. That's all I can say on that when the Bulls find themselves in a pickle. I mean,
in the middle of a couple triple big bags, man. That's where we've been for a while. That's where we've been since the Utah game, bro.
A pickle in between
big backs, not an Italian
in between a
beef
couple of triple big backs is hilarious. First of all, for a lot of different reasons. But outside of that, I'll just say this. That's why I think you hear the things that we've heard, right? Like last week at some time, heard that the Bulls asking prices dropped significantly for Zach LaVine, because I think that means that the Bulls have resigned themselves to the point of saying, hey, listen, what can we get back? Can we get back DeJounte Murray? No. Okay. Listen, can we get back some Heralds? Can we get back, like, that's the point that we're at right now.
Oh, we got Heralds already. We need something from somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Bojangles? I'm not too good on Bojangles.
What does Utah got? Because they're the team that I want the Bulls to trade with. I ain't gonna lie. Hey, I've marinated on that John Collins young bull trade. I
don't know if you want to marinate on John Collins, bro.
I said on the trade, dog. I said on the trade.
No,
dog.
you pause. You got to pause there.
I said I've you recovered nicely. John Collins young bull trade.
You said John Collins young bull trade.
I don't know if I did it like that.
Let's run this. Throw the flag. Let's run this.
That's nuts out here. I've marinated on that trade for a little while. Bro, I don't think it's nothing better than like, bro, listen. I'm not saying that you getting phenomenal players back.
Oh,
either,
no.
But
that's why I've been telling people.
That's the best case scenario right now.
I've been telling people here and on Central that, all jokes aside, you got to temper. You're like, let me be clear. 90% of Bulls fans are not going to like the Zach LaVine trade. They're not. The 10% are just the ones that are going to be realistic, that actually pay attention and say, hey, we did the best that we could. We missed out on the time where his value was highest. Listen, I had a whole conversation, bro, with somebody in the comment section on Central, and they literally tried to sell the case that, oh, Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan's trade value is the highest that it's ever going to be. And I was like,
I don't know about that.
And he literally said, AK got the other GMs right where he wanted them. I'm like, the brand of drugs that you're on, please let me know. Man, so listen, I never touch it.
You know some of the followers that we got in this mug ain't all there, bro. Like,
hey, bro, listen.
We talked about some of the
some of y'all need to start testing for fentanyl, because y'all like it's not.
I think here's my thing though. If you're a fan that feels that if you get out of this trade and you go, I feel like we didn't get enough. Think about if he stays. Think about the discourse that comes if he stays. Think about the Zach LaVine that we got this season. Remember, maybe Zach was a little banged up, but this was an elective surgery.
Yeah.
Zach LaVine was not just out to be out. Like, he was out because he wanted to be out. So think about the dynamic of the team the previous season. Think about how bad they played when he actually was on the court, how big of a step Kobe took when he wasn't out there, and then how immediately that step was ripped away the second he got back in the lineup before he went out with an injury again. And tell me that you're sitting here worried about the value that we're getting back for Zach LaVine. Like, I could care less at this point about the value. I'm more worried about the development of the young players that you do have that are showing something. And clearly, when Zach was on the floor, whatever that dynamic was, whatever Billy Donovan was running, however much he had the ball in his hand, right? I remember those first couple games. It was like, listen, Zach, moving the ball around. He's keeping Kobe involved. I like that. By the time we got to the third game of that, he was back to being the Zach LaVine that we knew and loved. It was like, oh boy, this ain't good. So, like, think about that when you're upset that we didn't get enough trade value back.
Well, Kobe stats weren't that bad when Zach came back. I mean, they weren't great, but
the games weren't good. I'm saying.
Oh yeah, the games. Yeah,
like he didn't have a good game. Yes, he still put up numbers, but like he didn't have a good game. There was a clear liability in the lineup that was affecting the team overall. Especially, he came back the first two games. Me and you were sitting there praising Zach LaVine defense. It was like
because all he did was facilitate and play defense for those first two games. I think he rebounded the ball really well too.
And we literally went, oh man, like if he does this for the rest of the season, and then we got a 5-game stretch of like, ooh. No, he ain't doing that for the rest of the season. So I think that's the part for me where it's like, think about everything that improved when he was out of your lineup versus when he was in the lineup. Why would you assume that changes next season?
Because fentanyl. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Bulls. Stop. Get some help. The Bulls being listed as one of the faves to land Russell Westbrook this offseason. But before we get into that, I got to talk to you guys about one of our sponsors, and that is BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. And you know me and Pat are big proponents of mental health and therapy. We are both big supporters of that. We all carry different stressors, big and small. When we keep them bottled up, it can start to affect us negatively. Therapy is a safe space to get things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out the brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, Pat. It's, every time the Bulls are listed as a favorite for somebody, I just look at that and say, how? Why? There's some questions that people don't ask. But with that said, the Bulls have been listed as one of the favorites to land Russell Westbrook this season. The other teams that were listed in there are the Heat and the Suns as well. We know the whys. Russell Westbrook, who's played under Billy Donovan before, apparently still has a really good relationship with Billy Donovan. How do you feel about the potential of Russell Westbrook coming to the Chicago Bulls team?
He's not coming here. Like, listen, y'all know me. I love Russ. I think Russ gets a ridiculous amount of hate that he just does not deserve. I think that Russell Westbrook is unfairly blamed for a lot of losses that end up happening. And I think he's an easy target. And I would love to see him in a Chicago Bulls jersey, especially in the role that we saw him play coming off of the bench for the Clippers. Now, maybe he'd end up being a starter here. But if he has taken on that bench role, listen, we got Javon Carter back there. We can't complain about nobody being a backup point guard right now. We can't say nothing. There's a dude named Leroy on this team. Like, I'm going to tell you that right now. So I would 110% take Russ. But when you look at the other teams that he's linked to, why the heck would he want to come to the Chicago Bulls? If he goes to Miami, listen, as up and down as Miami is, you're getting to play for a phenomenal head coach like Eric Spoelstra, who I'll say this, will absolutely play an older point guard. We saw him do it with BBL Lowry for the last 2 years. You know what I mean? So a point guard that is giving you minimal production, we've seen him throw that guy out there. I think that he would be a phenomenal asset to Tyler Hero down there. I think he takes a little bit of the load off of Jimmy Butler work-wise. I think that he makes the pick and roll with Bam Adebayo one of the most disgusting in the NBA. Like, there's a lot of good things that he could do down in Miami, plus Miami. Like, why would he be like, not only do I want to go from LA to Chicago, but I also want to go from LA to Chicago to lose.
You're not wrong.
when I hear Bulls are the favorite to land Russ, I'm just like, okay, but like from the human standpoint of this, why would I be like, oh yeah, I got to pick a team this year? Bulls are interested. Who else? The Heat, who are probably not going to get a better player. Yeah, let's go.
Exactly. Yeah, listen, I wouldn't hate Russell Westbrook. Like you said, in this specific role that we've talked about, I would not hate him here to do that role. But the bigger question you have to ask yourself is why? The why is important, right? The why is the biggest part in all of that. And I just can't come up with a realistic why other than Billy Donovan being here. If other teams like the Suns, the Miami Heat are interested, why would he pick the Chicago Bulls? Because they all going to have about the same amount of money to offer him. So it's not like the Bulls can overpay to bring him in here.
Right. And I mean, listen, Russ last year in 22 minutes a game off of the bench was 11 points a game, 4.5 assists, 5 rebounds for the Clippers. And he was the bench point guard on that team. And average two turnovers a game. I thought it said 0.3. I was like, there's no way. I love Russ, but Russ gonna turn that mug over. But you know, with like to me, if you're down in Miami, like I think he would go down to Miami as the starting point guard, right? Like here, you're still coming. That's crazy. Here you're still coming in as the backup point guard. I guess I'll just finish my point here and see if we get Haize back in. Or maybe you come in as the starter and you move Kobe White to off ball. But I think down in Miami, there's no question that you would see Russ come in as the clear-cut starting point guard on the team, somebody who can get everybody involved, somebody who can create an offense that you really want to see this team have anyway. Like, I just feel like that would be the best case scenario for Russ, and I guess we'll see kind of what the what ends up happening here. But I don't see a logical reason for him to go to the Chicago Bulls. Like none of it makes sense to me, especially with the options that are out there. And there's a ton of teams that are looking for a real point guard. There's a ton of teams that are looking for a guy who can get guys open, who can create offense for people, who can improve a team being a point guard for that team. And Russ still can be that. I absolutely believe that Russell Westbrook can still be the guy that he was when he was still in the starting lineup in Washington, right? 22 points a game, 11 assists per game. Maybe you need to get that turnover number down, 4.8 turnovers per game, but he was 11 rebounds a game. Like, why couldn't Russ be that guy? And I think that Miami would allow Russ to be that guy. Is that still the same Russ? No, but I don't need the same Russ. I need a Russ that is looking more to facilitate and to get everybody else involved. And I think that's what will make Russ really, really interesting down in Miami and very lackluster interesting here with the Chicago Bulls. But we'll see what it ends up being, man. Let's see if we can get Haize back in here real. Dang, we got the
But with that said, Pat, I'm back, by the way.
Welcome back, Haize. We lost him for a second. We all got nervous.
It is what it is.
We thought they got
can't keep a good man down. I know we both agree that the Miami Heat probably make the most or have the best fit for him. What do you think about him with the Suns, though?
Suns is interesting because isn't that what KD was running from? Apparently, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, that's never gonna happen.
Money wise, like, how are you making that work? Like, are you just gonna tell Russ again? Better location in Chicago, right? It's not a better location in Chicago. I shouldn't say that. It's not a better location in Chicago. But if you're an LA person, you don't want to be in the cold. Russ don't want to be in the cold, right? So, but to me, like, why would I guess like just to have the storyline and to say you have a point guard, but Bradley Beal is there, freaking Devin Booker is there, Kevin Durant's there.
Wait a second, it's a lot of people that Russ try to play with that don't work on that team.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying. Yeah. Well, I can't say that because him and Beal, I want to say they only played like 4 games together.
Was that
because Brad Beal got hurt very quickly in Washington. Like, it was like, welcome back, Brad Beal. That season was over quicker than the White Sox season. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like at most you might get like, maybe they played 10 games together. And
they played 54 games together.
They played 54 games together?
54 games together. And in those games, Russell Westbrook averaged 21 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists, 1 steal, and right under a block per game.
Bro, I don't remember Bradley Beal and Russ ever being on the floor at the same time, bro. That's nuts, bro.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be that high either. 54 games.
54 games. What did Bradley Beal go out in every game? Because that's insane. Well, I guess I'm wrong on that, but that's nuts, bro.
That's nuts.
Bro, 54 games, a lot of games, bro. What did Bradley Beal average in that time? You know what I mean? Like,
that's crazy.
I feel like they didn't play it all together. But anyway, yeah, I guess to your point, yeah, there is a lot of players on that team that I don't know if that didn't work with them. No, what was their record? They were almost in the playoff. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe they were in the playoffs and then like Brad got hurt and it was over. Like, weren't they? They end up being a playoff team, didn't they? Or a play-in
in those
team?
same 54 games, Bradley Beal averaged 30 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal.
That didn't work. What was their record?
I can't find the record. So,
oh well.
I mean, I can probably find it.
I want to say they made the play-in that year, but maybe not the playoffs. Or they were close. Something happened where they were in it at the end of the season, because I want to say that's the first year to play in. But either way, you know, like to me, I look at Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and I guess you have a real point guard on that team for it to work with. But are you basically just bringing Russ over for $11.94?
When Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook played together, their record was 28-26.
I mean, as a Bulls fan, I can't be like, oh, that's terrible. Like, that's what we're living off of. You know what I mean? Like, actually, we've been worse than that.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's not horrible. That'd be an interesting dynamic. I don't know if. I guess he kind of fits with that team, right?
I don't know if anybody fits with that team. I can't say that. I don't know if anything. The team doesn't fit. I have no idea, bro.
You know what Russ would do for that team? Bobo would finally figure out how to play basketball.
Wow.
Before we get up out of here, man, we got to tell you guys. We got to talk about the passing of the logo, man. Like, the crazy news today, a sad day for the NBA overall. But first, I do have to tell you guys all about FanDuel. Summertime means baseball, unless you're in Chicago, where there are two teams that absolutely are dog water, and the NBA finals and more. You can bet it all over on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from the finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to add a big winner to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Use the time away to add BBL Drizzly to the board.
Yeah, it's on the board. With that said, Pat, unfortunately, we do have to talk about the passing of Jerry West. Like you said, the logo. It's unfortunate. You know, we talked about it, not me and you, but as collective. Like, a lot of the legends of the game are still around. The NBA is young enough still to where you're talking about like players that played, retired, and came back and coached and retired. Were all happened before me and you were even on this planet, right? But the logo, Jerry West passed away today. How you feeling, Pat?
You lost a lot of basketball history today. You did. Yeah. I mean, like guys have used Jerry West's moves to put themselves in really good positions, right? I mean, like Michael Jordan's 2-dribble pull-up is Jerry West's 2-dribble pull-up, and it was Dr. J's 2-dribble pull-up. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many of those moves that Jerry West did that have come into the modern era. We don't really get to even see how good of a basketball player and numbers wise that he really was, because they didn't have a 3-point line, but he was pulling the mugs like they had a 3-point line. I said this to Jonathan Hood from ESPN 1000 a day. I would have loved to see somebody go back and do what they just did for the Negro Leagues for Jerry West 3-point stats, because Jerry West was often pulling shots outside of the arc, but it only counted for 2. So I wonder how that would reshape the scoring of the NBA. But I think here's the big thing is it's a loss to many teams who have saw massive success just by Jerry West talking to players. It's a loss for, listen, Golden State Warriors should be just as upset as Los Angeles Lakers fans are tonight, because Golden State Warriors fans don't get Kevin Durant without Jerry West telling Kevin Durant, hey, you're not going to get enough shots when sitting there playing in OKC. You should probably go over to Golden State. Like, he's been a legend in his own right as far as a GM. He was a legend as far as a player, a phenomenal player, phenomenal scorer, one of the most dominant the NBA has ever seen. I think that he's a player who, like we talk about all the time, right? Because guys play in this era, that era. I think he could play in any era and be an absolute wolf, as he said. He said he ate other dogs on the floor. And I mean, listen, he'll be missed vastly. He'll be missed vastly. We're losing too many of the stars now to where it's like, oh, that first generation of the NBA that built the game on its shoulders is kind of gone now. Like, we're starting to see that happen.
Yeah, that's a fact. And you look at what he's been able to do both as a player and as an executive in this league. What he has 8 titles, I think, as an executive in this league. Like, Jerry West has done it all. Everything that you can hope to do in the game of basketball, Jerry West has been able to achieve and accomplish, both as a player and other things. And yeah, it's unfortunate. Like you said, we lost a lot of history today, a lot of it. And for somebody whose playing time was done, hell, in the 70s, I think he retired in the 70s. Neither one of us was born when Jerry West stopped playing basketball.
listen, neither one of us was thought of. My dad wasn't born when Jerry West started playing basketball.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, so it's just like, it's unfortunate, man. But of course, prayers up to the family. And this season, they're gonna do it. It's gonna be a lot of Jerry West tributes this upcoming season. Rightfully so.
We saw one tonight, and I really wonder this. Do you do a Jerry West tribute in Boston? If this game was in Boston tonight, do they do a Jerry West tribute? Because let's not get it twisted. That is an NBA that it wasn't about rivalries and relationships, right? Or it wasn't about relationships, it was about rivalries.
Yeah.
That's real hate.
It is. And it's generational hate, because there's a lot of people in Boston.
Hate. Like, that's dang near racism, how they hated each other. You know what I'm saying, bro? Like,
they think they have to, bro. We'll see.
That's maybe you do. I don't even know. Can you risk it? Do Boston fans clap for Jerry West, bro? Or
I guarantee you they handle it a lot better than Chicagoans with Jerry Krause, bastards. I can't even give that. I can't give Boston.
Bro, I don't know, bro.
Yeah, I was about to say I can't give. I just had to think about what city I was talking about. I don't know if you can risk it, bro.
I don't know if you can risk it.
I don't know if you can risk it, bro.
They caught a absolute phenomenal break that game was in Dallas tonight, because conversation would be like, there'd have been somebody in their meeting that was like, bro, we're not honoring Jerry West tonight.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, even UD with Bill Russell, bro. He was like, bro, we don't fool with no Boston, bro. Like, F Bill Russell. Like, wow.
That's crazy.
Like some of these hates is real hate, bro. Some of this must go deep, bro.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's how I feel about the Packers. That's how I feel about Aaron Rodgers, because I told my son, if you ever run it.
Listen, I got to make a request on the show, just in case anybody's listening. Can we get team specific colors for the shows that we have out here for Locked On? Because I'm going to be real 110% honest with you. Me and Haize never wear Locked On merch.
Because it's Packers colors.
Because it comes in Packers green and yellow. I understand that David Locke owns the network. Those are the Utah Jazz colors, very similar. But we never want to put these shirts on.
I don't think they understand
it's Packers green, bro.
Yeah.
Y'all wanted Chicagoans. You got Chicagoans. Can we get a red and black Locked On?
Or just a black and white? You ain't even got it like this. We can rock that. But I'm not rocking Packers green, bro. I'm not doing it.
And got the nerve to have a yellow across the chest.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, bro. There are certain things in life that just I cannot do. And if you give me something that's Packers green and yellow, all I get filled with is rage, and I want to punch somebody.
Bro, when I was still working construction, I left work. This is nuts, right? This is too much fandom in all honesty. But they gave us a vest, and I swear it was Packers green, and the outside was yellow. And they were like, here, put this on. I was like, I got one in the car. And they were like, sir, your car is like down this silo that's like 190 feet in the air. It's like, you gonna go back down to get a different vest? I was like, bro, nobody finna catch me up here in green and yellow.
That's funny.
Like, that hate run deep, bro. Like, absolutely. Nah. So
that's funny.
That's my request. Listen, it's red, black, locked on your team every day. It ain't got to say locked on Bulls. Just locked on your team every day. Red and black, black and red, black and white. You could throw me a blue one randomly. I don't care. I'll do purple. Like, if you threw me a purple one, give me the purple jerseys, and I'll be like, this kind of look like the Vikings, but I'll rock with it. I just tell myself it's Randy Moss. You know what I mean? Like, anything but Packer green, bro.
Anyway, let's get up out of here.
Let's get up out of here, man. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love.
Absolutely. You guys can follow me at CEO Haize. We are free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube. For Pat, we up out of here. Peace, y'all.
Peace. What if he does it again?